The dust had barely settled, the blood of tens of thousands had been spilled. The First Punic War had ended, and Rome stood victorious. For over 2 decades, they had fought, bled, and endured a grueling conflict against the Carthaginians, one that reshaped the Mediterranean world. Sicily was now in Roman hands. Carthage was humiliated, forced into an uneasy peace, stripped of its naval supremacy, and burdened with heavy war indemnities. And yet, the war was not truly over. If Rome thought Carthage was broken, they were gravely mistaken. Across the sea in the great North African city, resentment boiled beneath the surface. The scars of defeat were deep, and one brilliant and ruthless strategist would rise from those ashes with a thirst for vengeance unlike anything the world had ever seen. That man was Hannibal Barca. Long before he became Rome's greatest nightmare, Hannibal was just a boy standing beside his father, Hamilcar Barca, the undefeated Carthaginian general of the First Punic War. Hamilcar had never accepted defeat. He did not see Carthage's loss as a final chapter, but rather as a setback, a lesson. And so, before embarking on a campaign to expand Carthaginian influence in Spain, he made his young son swear a sacred oath.
"Swear to me, Hannibal, swear before the gods, that you will never be a friend to Rome."
With fire in his eyes, the boy swore, and as he grew into a man, that oath would define him. Years passed, and Carthage, under Hamilcar and later his son-in-law Hasdrubal the Fair, expanded its power in Iberia, modern-day Spain. The riches of Spain filled Carthage's coffers, funding a new army and new hope for vengeance. But then, in 221 BCE, Hasdrubal was assassinated, and now, at just 26 years old, the son of Hamilcar took command. Hannibal was young, but he was a military genius. He knew that if Carthage was to challenge Rome again, it could not be through slow attrition or distant battles. No, this time, Rome had to be struck at its very heart. And so, in 218 BCE, Hannibal made his first move. He laid siege to the city of Saguntum, a Roman ally in Spain. The Romans demanded his withdrawal. He refused. Rome declared war. Hannibal smiled. The time had come. But Hannibal would not fight Rome in Spain. He would not fight Rome on Carthaginian soil. He would do the unthinkable. He would march his army, thousands of men, cavalry, and even more elephants, through the uncharted and deadly Alps. He would bring the war to Rome's doorstep. This would not be just another war. This would be a war of annihilation, a war for revenge, a war that would shake the very foundations of the ancient world. The Second Punic War had begun. The warm winds sweep through the streets of Carthage, where a young general with piercing eyes and an indomitable spirit steps forward to address his troops. His name is Hannibal Barca, the son of Hamilcar Barca, a man who once vowed eternal hatred for Rome. As Hannibal grips his sword and raises it high, he swears to avenge Carthage's defeat in the First Punic War. The spark of vengeance is ignited, and soon the world will witness a conflict that will define an era. The First Punic War left Carthage humiliated, forced to cede Sicily and pay a crippling indemnity to Rome. Despite this setback, Carthage rebuilt its strength, focusing on expanding its empire in Spain. Under the leadership of Hamilcar Barca and later his son-in-law Hasdrubal, Carthage established a power base rich in silver and manpower. Rome, wary of Carthaginian resurgence, grew increasingly uneasy as Carthage pushed its influence northward. The city of Saguntum, allied with Rome but situated in Carthaginian territory, became the flashpoint. In 218 BCE, Hannibal besieged and captured Saguntum, defying Roman warnings. Rome demanded Hannibal's surrender. When Carthage refused, war was declared, plunging the Mediterranean into chaos once more. While Rome prepared for a conventional war, Hannibal conceived a bold and unprecedented strategy, an overland invasion of Italy. In 218 BCE, Hannibal assembled an army of 50,000 infantry, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants. His plan was audacious. He would cross the Pyrenees, traverse the treacherous Alps, and strike at the heart of Rome. The journey was a nightmare. Hannibal's army faced harsh weather, hostile tribes, and deadly terrain. Yet, against all odds, he emerged in northern Italy with a diminished but determined force. His audacity shocked Rome and set the stage for one of the most legendary campaigns in history. Hannibal wasted no time in engaging Rome. His first victory came at the Battle of the Treaty of 218 BCE, where his cunning tactics and superior cavalry overwhelmed the Roman forces. The following year, at the Battle of Lake Trasimene 217 BCE, Hannibal lured the Roman army into a deadly ambush. Entire legions were annihilated, and Rome was left reeling. Rome's response was to appoint a dictator, Quintus Fabius Maximus, whose strategy of avoiding direct confrontation earned him the nickname the Delayer. While Fabius frustrated Hannibal, many Romans grew impatient with his cautious approach. This impatience led to disaster at the Battle of Cannae 216 BC. Hannibal employed a brilliant double envelopment tactic, surrounding and annihilating a Roman army twice the size of his own. It was one of the most devastating defeats in Roman history, with over 50,000 Roman soldiers killed in a single day. Despite these crushing defeats, Rome refused to capitulate. The Senate adopted Fabius' strategy, avoiding pitched battles and focusing on cutting off Hannibal's supply lines. Meanwhile, Rome targeted Carthage's holdings elsewhere, reclaiming Sicily and Sardinia. In Spain, Roman generals Publius Cornelius Scipio and Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio Calvus waged a relentless campaign against Carthage's forces. Their efforts laid the groundwork for Rome's eventual dominance. Hannibal, though victorious in Italy, found himself increasingly isolated. His calls for reinforcements went unanswered, as Carthage's leadership hesitated to commit resources to his campaign. In 210 BCE, a young Roman general named Publius Cornelius Scipio took command of Roman forces in Spain. Scipio was a brilliant strategist and charismatic leader who mirrored Hannibal's audacity. By 206 BCE, Scipio had driven Carthage out of Spain, depriving Hannibal of critical resources. He then turned his attention to North Africa, where he aimed to strike at Carthage directly. In 204 BCE, Scipio landed in North Africa, forcing Carthage to recall Hannibal from Italy. The two great generals finally met at the Battle of Zama in 200 BC. Scipio had studied Hannibal's tactics and adapted his strategy accordingly. His cavalry, led by the Numidian king Massinissa, played a decisive role, routing Hannibal's horsemen and encircling his infantry. Hannibal fought valiantly, but the battle ended in a resounding Roman victory. The defeat marked the end of Carthage's ambitions and the rise of Rome as the dominant Mediterranean power. The Treaty of 201 BC imposed harsh terms on Carthage. It lost its navy, paid a massive indemnity, and became a Roman client state. Hannibal, though spared, lived the rest of his life in exile, a symbol of unfulfilled ambition. Rome, meanwhile, emerged as an unstoppable force. The war had transformed the Republic into a superpower, setting the stage for further expansion. Thank you for journeying with us through one of history's most dramatic conflicts. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Second Punic War, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more epic stories. What do you think of Hannibal's legacy? Let us know below. Until next time, keep exploring history's greatest tales.